A used vending machine costs about $800 to $3,000. You fill it with drinks or snacks bought at wholesale. A bag of chips that retails for $1.75 might cost you 60 cents. The machine collects money 24 hours a day, without an employee, without a storefront, and without you being present. Multiply that by 10 machines, 20, 50, and the math starts to look like free money. That version of the story is everywhere online. It's also the version that leaves out almost everything that actually determines whether this business works. The gap between buying a vending machine and earning a living from one is filled with a system most people never see until they're already invested. And that system has very little to do with snacks. The first thing a new operator discovers is that owning a machine is the easy part. Placing it is the business. Every vending machine needs a physical location with foot traffic, a warehouse break room, a laundromat, an auto repair waiting area, a hotel lobby. And every one of those locations is controlled by a property owner or manager who has to agree to let you install your machine. Seriously, this is where most beginners stall. They buy the machine, load it into a truck, and then spend weeks cold calling businesses, knocking on doors, and getting told no. Intrigued, the locations that generate meaningful revenue, factories with 200 or more employees, mid-size office buildings, hospitals, universities, are almost always already locked into contracts with larger vending companies. Calm. What remains available to a newcomer tends to be low-traffic spots, a small barber shop, a tire shop with 8 customers a day, a church lobby used twice a week. Serious. These locations might gross $30 to $60 per month. After product cost, gas, and time spent restocking, the profit can be close to nothing. Building curiosity. This is the part that reshapes the entire business model. A vending machine sitting in the wrong spot doesn't just underperform, it actively costs money. Products expire, drives to service it burn fuel and hours, and the operator starts making decisions based on sunk cost rather than actual return. Intrigued. Meanwhile, the locations that do generate real revenue, say $300 to $800 a month gross, come with their own complication: the commission. Most people assume that once you find a great location, the money is yours. It isn't. The property owner wants a share of every sale. That's called the commission. Some locations ask for 10%, others want 20 or even 30% of your gross sales. The better the location, the more negotiating power the property owner usually has. At first, that doesn't sound like a huge problem, but vending is already a business with thin margins. Every snack, every drink already has a cost. Then there are card processing fees, sales tax, fuel, vehicle maintenance, machine repairs, and the time spent driving from one location to another. By the time every expense is paid, the profit is much smaller than most beginners expected. That's why experienced operators don't judge a location by revenue alone. They judge it by profit. Intriguingly, a machine making $700 a month isn't automatically better than one making $400. If the first location demands a large commission, requires frequent servicing, or wastes hours of driving, the smaller location can actually make more money. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about this business. Revenue and profit are not the same thing. Then there's another problem that almost nobody talks about. One vending machine is almost never passive. Every machine has to be restocked. Products have to be rotated before they expire. Cash has to be collected. Card readers stop working. Machines jam. Drinks get stuck. Customers call when something goes wrong. And every problem requires someone to show up. Usually, you. That's why successful operators don't think in terms of individual machines. They think in terms of routes. A route is a group of machines close enough together that they can all be serviced in a single trip. The shorter the route, the less time you spend driving, the lower your fuel costs, and the more machines you can service in a day. Intriguingly, distance turns out to be one of the biggest hidden expenses in the entire business.
Two machines that earn exactly the same amount can produce completely different profits simply because one takes 10 minutes to reach and the other takes 40. That's where the biggest vending companies gain an advantage.
This is where scale changes everything. Large vending companies don't succeed because they own better machines. They succeed because they own better routes. Instead of driving across an entire city to refill one machine, they service 20, 30, sometimes 50 machines, all within a small area. That means less fuel, less time on the road, more machines serviced every day, and lower operating costs across the entire business. The machine itself is only one part of the equation. The real asset is the network. Every new location that fits into an existing route makes every other location more profitable. That's an advantage that's almost impossible for a beginner to compete with. A new operator might spend an hour driving to refill a single machine. A large company can refill 10 in the same amount of time. Over months and years, those small differences compound into a massive competitive advantage. But even experienced operators face a problem they can never fully control. They don't own the locations. They only have permission to use them. Interestingly, a factory changes management, an office signs a new contract, a hotel decides to bring vending in-house, or another company offers the owner a better deal. Overnight, one of your best locations can disappear. And when that happens, the machine doesn't keep making money. It becomes an expensive metal box waiting for a new home. Replacing a profitable location isn't easy. The best spots are already occupied. Finding another one can take weeks or even months. Meanwhile, the machine earns nothing. Interestingly, this is one of the biggest risks in the vending business. Your income depends on locations that you don't actually own. That's why experienced operators spend just as much time protecting relationships as they do filling machines. Good service, reliable maintenance, quick repairs, fair communication. They're not just keeping the machine running, they're protecting the location itself. Interestingly, then came 2020, and suddenly, millions of people started searching for passive income. Vending machines became one of the internet's favorite side hustles. YouTube was filled with videos promising easy money. Social media was full of people buying their first machine. Demand exploded. But reality hadn't changed.
The problem was that the number of good locations didn't suddenly increase. Thousands of new operators were competing for the exact same factories, the same offices, the same hotels, the same laundromats, the same high-traffic buildings. Many people bought a machine first, only then realized they had nowhere profitable to put it. Others found a location, only to discover that the sales weren't high enough to justify the time, the fuel, and the effort. That's why so many vending machines end up for sale, not because the machines are broken, because the business behind them never worked. When experienced operators buy another vending business, they're rarely interested in the machines themselves. Machines can be bought anywhere. What they're really buying is the route, the locations, the relationships, and the predictable cash flow those locations generate. That's why a business with older machines but excellent locations can be worth far more than a business filled with brand new equipment sitting in poor locations. In the best-case scenario, a well-managed vending business grows into a reliable source of income. Routes become denser, operating costs fall, new locations are added, and each machine becomes more profitable than the last. In the average case, it becomes a steady small business, one that rewards consistency, attention to detail, and years of relationship building. Not effortless, but dependable. In the worst case, the machines never find profitable locations. Sales stay low, costs keep rising, time disappears, and what looked like passive income turns into an expensive lesson. Because the biggest misconception about vending machines is believing the machine is the business. It isn't. The business is the location, the relationships, the route, and the logistics required to keep all of it running. A vending machine is just a metal box. By itself, it earns nothing. Only when it's placed in the right location, managed efficiently, and connected to a profitable route, does it become a real business. That's why the people who make the most money in vending aren't simply buying machines, they're building systems. And in the end, that's what separates a successful vending company from a garage full of expensive metal boxes.